Hi guys, and welcome to this week's Halifax Hear. My name is Adam Cooper, and Halifax Hear is a My Halifax weekly podcast which we make every week, where we talk about things happening in the city, events that are going on, or things that we just thought you might want to talk about. So let's get into it. So as you can see for this week's podcast, I am running solo. That's partly because my much better half and more beautiful, talented co-host Gina is sick. I'm pretty sure she has a really bad flu, although it might actually be bird flu or that thing in The Walking Dead that turns people into zombies. I don't know, but hopefully she'll be back for next week's episode. But for this week's podcast, we're going to be talking about the Rotunda. The Rotunda is located on Bedford Highway, and if you guys watch this week's video for My Halifax over on our YouTube channel, or over on this channel, you will see that we basically went and explored the Rotunda, which is really cool. Although I will start off by saying that, and I say this in a lot of the vlogs, that I feel kind of duty bound that when we go and do things out in the community, that you always stay safe. And because where the Rotunda is located, it's right next to Bedford Highway, which is really busy in terms of traffic. So to go across, you're crossing quite a busy road, so I always say be careful. And also to get down to where the Rotunda was, you're crossing effectively an active train line. Now there is signs there and everything that say, be careful, cross at your own risk, that kind of stuff. But I kind of felt like if you guys are going to go down there, make sure you stay extra safe. And I wanted you guys to say that. I want to say that to you in the vlog and also in the podcast, because I don't want anyone getting hurt because they were trying to copy or go and see what we saw, because it was really cool down there. And the best thing about that kind of episode was that we got to do a lot of research, and typically with My Halifax we always do a lot of research so that when we're showing you guys what we're seeing, we can actually give you some facts and not just be like, hey, isn't this pretty? And with the Rotunda, I felt that was especially important, kind of the same way with York Redoubt as well, because these are like historic landmarks within Halifax. So if you've never been, those are some of the iconic things that stand out in Halifax would be the bridges, the York Redoubt, the Citadel, and then on the Bedford Highway would be the Rotunda. So doing some research on the actual Rotunda itself was fun for us because we got to learn a lot, and that's one of the benefits of doing a vlog like My Halifax, is every time we go somewhere we get to do some research and we get to learn more about the city, and it's just every time we go somewhere we learn so much, and that's fun, and it's fun to pass this stuff on, because someone already said in the comments on our YouTube channel, I had no idea what the Rotunda was. And it's just really cool because it was originally built in the 1800s by Prince Edward, Duke of Kent, and you think about that, like, it's still sitting here in 2018 and it's centuries old, and I think that's just really cool that it's managed to survive, because when we were doing so much of the research, it turns out that he was like really into English gardens and into a lot of the British architecture, and he was out to visit Sir John Wentworth, who had a rather large estate, and he allowed him to build these gardens and all this architecture stuff. There were several different buildings as part of the estate, but they didn't survive. So when you consider where the Rotunda is actually located, because it's actually the other side of the highway, and it's surrounded by the ocean, and I was looking there thinking, well, what if land erosion and then it suddenly would fall over or fall into the ocean, which I don't know if that's realistic or not, but I'm just sitting and thinking, it's kind of cool that managed to survive as long as it has. And it is nice that the province, I think the province own it now, and they do actually maintain it. I mean, recently I drove past it probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they've looked like they've repainted or reshingled the top of the dome, which is really cool. And it's also, I've driven past it so often that I've always wondered, like, what was that used for? So again, featuring it in My Halifax gave us a chance to do that research and find out what it was used for. And it turns out it was used for like a multitude of different things. At one point, I think there was a family of 9 that lived there, and then there was, for some reason, a member of the NDP bought it, and he was actually the owner. And the ownership passed hands a lot of different times. And to me, that's just fascinating that something that's so historical could be sold to so many different people. And it being a restaurant as well, that seems like such an odd place for a restaurant, but also it would be a really cool place for a restaurant. There was a lady who lived there, the last lady, I think she left in 2009, which is actually the year before I came to Halifax. Wendy Murray. I think her grandmother or her mother had actually been part of people who were like looking after the Rotunda prior to her being there, so she visited as a child. So then she really wanted to help maintain it because she had a special place for it in her heart. So she looked after it, and she said that once when she went down to the grocery to get groceries, she came back and she found like a Viennese family that had basically decided that they wanted to see the Rotunda and they thought it was a museum. So they were like in there looking at all her crocheting and all the artwork she had basically made herself, because she was somewhat of an artist, it sounds like. And they just assumed that she was that it was just an open museum they could go in. And it's kind of stuff like that seems to so completely in Italy, the kind of experience that you have in Halifax is that it's just a safe place that a lot of time people would leave their doors unlocked. And it's the Rotunda itself is such a fascinating kind of building that people would walk up to it and assume, oh, you know, you must be able to walk into this open museum. So again, going from it from our point of view and doing the research was really cool. And there were some really great articles. One was on Halifax Magazine, and there is also a book called Sweet Suburbs, The History of Princess Lodge and Rockingham, and Princess Lodge and Rockingham, I believe, is the title. And that was, both of those have some really good information about Princess Lodge, which is actually the actual name of the Rotunda. We just locally call it the Rotunda. Which is again something that to me it's always been, I used to call it the thingy on the side of the Bedford Highway, then it was the Rotunda, and then as part of this video I found out it was actually called Princess Lodge. And it just goes to show that how localisms versus names kind of take over on different things, so that was kind of cool too. When we actually got down to the video and we were like the other side of the train, the other side of the highway, it turns out like it was a seriously peaceful place. Maybe unless you've been there and you've kind of been on the street at a street level, it's like it's busy. Like it's like I say, it's a main highway. So I was kind of like wasn't expecting it, but I thought it'd be like really loud and really noisy. But when we got down, it was just like this grass pathway takes you up to the Rotunda, and there's a pebble beach that just goes out on basically looking to a combination of the Bedford Basin and the ocean. And I remember standing there thinking, man, this place is just like tranquil. It's so calm. It's so quiet. So we walked around there and we got some, and there's tons of crabs and seashells that have been opened by birds with dive bombing and killing them, but that's nature, people. But it's just so cool to see it just so tranquil and really unspoiled. So then we went up to actually Rotunda and walked around it, and it's still got all its charm and its character, and that's a testament to the city and the people who were like Wendy Murray, who looked after it and done such a good job maintaining that building, because it is really an icon. It's an icon in our city. It's an icon in Bedford. It's like you know how like every kind of city has something that it's known for or something that you look for within it. And for me, when I think of Bedford, I kind of think of the Rotunda. Like when I drive along Bedford Highway, keep my eye out for it. And it was the perfect day for it. It was a little cold and a little windy, but after doing the research and you kind of start putting the story together of the building, it's got a rich history, and it was really cool. It was really challenging for us to film though, because it is so exposed, and because you are from the bottom where the beach is, it's really quite well protected. So it was nice to walk through there, and it was really, really calm. But when we got up to the Rotunda, wasn't very loud. Like the noise and the traffic wasn't the problem. It was the wind. It was wicked windy. And Wendy Murray actually said that she would like she kept like a canoe or a kayak. I mixed it up in the vlog. If I said kayak, it was a canoe, and if I said canoe, it was a kayak, but that's just me. She said like the best way to view it is from the actual ocean itself as you go out on the basin, which I thought that would be a cool idea. But we didn't have a kayak and it was kind of cold. But I wouldn't mind actually making a video going from like the Bedford Yacht Club and a kayak and just kayaking that front, going down there just so you could see that, because the Bedford Basin is beautiful. And that's one of the nice things about making a video like that. And being on the Rotunda, like it has probably one of the best views in the city, just because it's just completely unobstructed by anything. And again, I can totally see why someone like the Duke of Kent would have built that there. And it's like prime location in terms of what you have access to and the unspoiled view that you have. So it was really cool that we could make that video, and capture kind of the story of it. I mean, it's one of those places where I feel like we could have made a 30-minute long video about all the history and all the stories and everything that was happening there, because it's got so much history. But I'm not sure if we would have been able to film it in a interesting way that everyone who was watching it kind of could have enjoyed it and not got a little bit bored, because without having people there to kind of explain the stories there, it's just on us to film it and capture it. And you know, I think we did a good job in the vlog of balancing out the footage of the Rotunda versus just me talking to the camera, because unfortunately we couldn't go in, and I don't think anyone can go in. I don't think that's an option. I don't know, like, I know like things like McNabb's Island and sort of some of the islands around Halifax as a whole, so you can do tours and you can go in and out and look at some of the ruins, and same with York Redoubt and the Dingle. Sometimes you can go in Dingle Tower, but it's not open all year round. I don't think they do that with the Rotunda. I'm not sure that is, probably because it is difficult to access. Like, there's not really a place to park. You kind of have to walk down a Bedford highway to get there, which is only a 2-lane highway, but at the end of the day it's still a highway. And also there's that train track, so I can imagine that that's not something they would want like a lot of people to do, which is why I was so kind of like adamant. It's funny because I filmed one where I was like, do not walk up to the Rotunda, stay away from the Rotunda, it's really unsafe, and that's not true. But at the same time, I was just really, I didn't want anyone to try and drive straight up to it, or get stuck, or get hit by a train. So if you are walking down the Bedford Highway at any point, whether it's just to go to the farmer's market or it's to actually go and check out the Rotunda, stay safe. Like, always stay safe. And we always try and be as safe as we can when we're making the vlog, purely and simply because we like living, and we like living in Halifax. So it'd be a bit stupid to go and do something that would make yourself unsafe. So if you do go and check it out, please stay safe. And I would recommend, probably the best way and the easiest way to do it would be by water. Like, if you can, like, there's a guy who rents skidoo rides down by just that Chinese restaurant on the left hand side if you're going along the Bedford Highway into town. Maybe just take a rip around there, or the public wharf you could launch a canoe from, or a small boat. Do it there and take a look at there. That's safe. I mean, don't fall in the water and drown, but safely as you can, and try and enjoy some of the stuff. But yeah, it was fun, and it had a lot, like I said, it has a ton of history. And one of the things that really fascinated me was when I moved here, I remember asking someone what that white thing was, and they were like, well, it's a place that a prince kept his mistress. And I was like, a prince? And like in my head I was thinking, like, when you say prince, do you mean like an actual prince, or do you mean like a rock star prince? Like, I don't know what this is, because I wasn't sure, because when I think Canada, I think back to the royal family, and I was like, we talking about like a prince of England, or are you talking about like something else that someone just call himself a prince? I know that sounds ridiculous, but in my head I just couldn't wrap it around, because I thought I was fairly up to date with English history. But it turned, and there's a heart, if you go into Marine Park, you'll see there's a heart-shaped pond, and he was like, he built that pond for his mistress, and his mistress had to live in the Rotunda. And I was like, man, that is a story for the ages. Someone should make that into a movie. And based on researching the Rotunda, turns out that isn't true, not even slightly true. So that was kind of funny to me, because like, I can't believe I came here in 2010, and the first person they asked about the Rotunda told me it was a place for a mistress to be kept. Not true. But that just goes to show you how sometimes urban legends can be taken a little bit too literally, and it was interesting to do that kind of research and find out that, you know, other people have researched it, and the people who wrote the book, Sweet Suburbs, they came from BC and they'd heard that story too. And part of their research on Prince's Lodge was to find out, like, is that actually true? And it turns out that it wasn't, as I said earlier. So it was kind of one of those episodes where you go in with your expectations here, and then you learn a lot more, and then as you're making a video and you're trying to tell that story and give that information to people like you guys, you realize, you know what, I kind of like it the way I found out, in the sense of like, it was just this guy who was visiting somebody else, one of his friends, and he really loved English architecture and gardens, so he built a rotunda and some buildings, and he was just enjoying himself, and he was just taking in the kind of stuff that even today in Halifax we really love. Like, that view's incredible, and that we're lucky in Halifax that we still have that view today, and we still have the rotundas today. and that's kind of a nice thing to see. Right, in the cities they've done, Halifax does a really good job of kind of protecting its history and keeping a lot of the buildings that have historic significance here, and it was really cool to see it. Like I talked about it in the video, but we didn't use the footage just because it was starting to, the pacing side of the vlog was kind of starting to slow down if we had it in. But the city maintained the Rotunda. There's timers inside the building so that the lights come out in the evenings. They hang a wreath on the door when Christmas is around. So they do a good job to make it feel like it's lived in. And I think that's really sweet in a way that people go to trouble like that, because you go, again, growing up in England, you see a lot of buildings that would have, see in Halifax we say that has historical significance, which it does. But at the same time, it's not like it's the Citadel, or it's somewhere like the Lieutenant Governor General lived. It was, something that was built in the 1800s, and it didn't play like a super fundamental part in Canadian history. But the fact is, it is a historic building, and they've done a really good job of maintaining that, as well. Sometimes in different parts of Europe and back in England, a building that would have the same equal stature might be left to be left in the condition of disrepair, where that building really isn't. It's still got that great balance between keeping all its character, being kind of old, but not really in a state of disrepair. And it was really an education learning about it. It was a really fun at my Halifax to make, because we learned so much and we got to show off something that really doesn't get to tell its story. Like, if I could say to most people, like, talk about the Citadel, and they've probably gone there for one of the events that's held at the Citadel, and all the Noonday Gun or any of that kind of stuff, but most people who watch that video or I've seen this week have been like, hey, yeah, I can't believe that building. Like, I had no idea what it was. And that's always been my goal with my Halifax when we first started it. And if you've been watching this podcast from the start, you knew that the reason why we started my Halifax was because when I moved here, I thought this was such an amazing place. And I still feel like that now. And what's happened is I've been able, and I've been lucky enough to go to places and go to events and share it with everybody that I can. And if you follow me on Twitter, you know that I'm always pushing, go to a vlog, go to a vlog, go to a vlog. A, because I want people to see it, because we put a lot of time and effort and we're really proud of the vlog. And also because each event we go to and each historical place that we cover, or each charity that we try and support or support local, we're really proud of those people because they've asked us to kind of help them, or we've picked them because we love what they do and we really want other people in Halifax to see it. Not because they won't see it any other way, it's just a case of we all live busy lives, and sometimes you see something like the Rotunda, which has been here for 200 years plus, or it was built in the 1800s, so I don't know exactly when, but we'll say 200 years. If my maths is wrong, leave a note in the comments and tell me where I can get better maths lessons. And people have driven past it all the time and they didn't know what it is. Some people know what it is, and some people truly know what it is. But it's just nice to be able to put something out there and say, hey, this is the story of this building, check it out. And then everyone piles in. So it's been really cool. So I hope you guys watched the video and I hope you enjoyed it. If there's anything else, any stories you know about that video, about the Rotunda that we didn't cover, please let us know in the comments below in this video. And if there's anything you want us to cover in the podcast or the vlog, let us know in the comments below. Like, my Halifax really is our baby, and it means a hell of a lot to me and Gina. But at the same time, we kind of want it to be something where if you know of a place, or you know of a business, or you know of an event, and you think, I really think everyone should know about this, let us know so we can share it with everybody. Because we love Halifax and we want everybody to see just how cool it is. Next week, we are going to be playing a game called I Would Change, and basically I haven't quite ironed out with Gina the way the game's going to work, but we're going to try and come up with I would change, pick a place in Halifax, and then come up with randomly pull out parts of the equation that might make it funny, that might make it serious, that might make it work well. It's going to be like Cards with Humanity, but Cards Against Humanity, but Halifax themed. It might be awful, I don't know, but that's kind of the plan. I like the ones where we get to play games just because it's fun, and I try and make the podcast as fun as I can. This one might not be fun because I've had to do a lot of talking to you guys consistently, and sometimes I forget to breathe. That's a funny story for you. But right now I've waddled on for about 18 minutes, so I think I will leave you guys there. If you've watched this and you know me and Gina for a long time, or you just like watching this, leave a comment below and just wish Gina to get well, because she's having a really hard time. She is quite sick, and I really hope she's not going to turn into a zombie. But yeah. So thank you for watching this week's Halifax Hear. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and right here on YouTube. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We would really love it. And again, if there's any way you think we should make a video, please let us know in the comments below. And we'll see you next week.